Welcome around the work stand, Ryan. How are
Dude,
you this week?
good. It's good to see. We actually haven't talked in a little while. We instant message kind of all
Oh,
the time, but yeah.
yeah. How you been? How's the weather out there? It's a million degrees in the desert.
Are you sure you're not from Nebraska? Because to lead every conversation off with "How's the weather?" that's a very Midwestern thing to do.
Well, it's a very southern thing to do. And I just came back from Alabama. We went for the weekend and picked my mom up and brought her back out here.
Yeah.
And it is always shocking how growing up there all my life until 2017, I can forget how hot it is until we get back there. So weather's always on my mind.
Okay. Yeah. Well, is it okay? So weather's great. Like it's one of those classic New Mexico days. 70-degree morning, not a cloud in the sky. Perfect. Like so bad that I spent way longer than I wanted on the patio with my cup of coffee this morning just because it was such a great morning.
That sounds wonderful.
Well, it was wonderful, but I had to like furiously get ready to sit down with you. So if I'm a
Well,
little frazzled,
yeah, our internal weather's a little off because Susie's under the weather this week, so we
yeah,
will not have our normal guidance
yeah,
and our rails and the wittiness that she brings to this. So we'll do our best, sans Susie today. But we got some important stuff to talk about that's happening in our little industry. So what's the most I don't know. This looks like a couple of alarming things on our sheet of things to talk about.
yeah. I don't know if alarming. I think just kind of monitoring what's happening, and so the one that jumped out at me a couple weeks ago was a headline hit my news feed around. I think it was additional restrictions on electric bikes on Long Island, as there was kind of a safety issue there. And so I decided to dive into that a little bit more. And I came across this Long Island law firm that has built out a bunch of website content around electric bike injuries or accidents. And this is like for retailers, SEO is kind of waning, but for like law firms, when they've got a specialty, it's the number one way they get business. And so when you see them investing in marketing content to try and attract personal injury claimants,
Hmm.
that's a bit of a red flag. And so, watching e-bikes over the last couple of years, there's like what regulations are coming if personal injuries, especially with children, make their way to Congress as issues. What is that going to mean? And so when I see this personal injury universe building up, it is worth noting in terms of what's the regulatory environment going to be in the future and how does it impact our customers. So I guess what did you said concerned or worried?
Well, I mean, that kind of stuff's worrying on a few levels. We certainly don't want to burn people's houses down.
Mm.
The other thing that I always think about is that our client base? Because a lot of those early battery fire issues were certainly not the specialized and Treks of the world. It was the multitude of e-bike brands that just seem to pop up every day. So I just wonder what that balance is. How concerning should that be for our clients, and what can we or should we or is there anything we should be doing to help them be aware of that?
Yeah, I think the number one thing for shops is to talk about safety. Like obviously you don't want to scare customers,
Mhm.
but obviously battery safety and good charging habits. But also on the streets, recognizing that the additional speed not only can impact their handling, but also could confuse drivers, and drivers might not expect an e-bike to be going as fast as it is. But
Mhm.
to really be talking about safety from a perspective of customer service and caring, but then also putting it out there that if you have any questions, if you encounter any obstacles or challenges, I want to be the first person you come to.
Yeah.
Um, it's not going to protect you completely, but it starts putting out into your community the priorities on safety and that the bike shop is the first place to go if you encounter anything. So consumers don't feel surprised. They don't go to an attorney first. And I, as a small business owner, I think that's the best you can do.
Yeah. I think that's particularly around batteries because it's maybe those are bigger batteries. They draw a little more, but it is a battery in amongst an ocean of batteries in a house. I could reach back here and touch a half a dozen batteries charging right now. So I think, I
Totally.
think your advice is great on many levels. And one of those is that be the one point of sale or contact for your customer that's talking about these issues, because there's 20 other batteries charging right now. And that same information goes for all of those batteries too.
Totally. Yeah, the hardware store doesn't tell you about your, lawn equipment or
your
tool
power drill.
batteries.
Yeah.
Best Buy doesn't say a thing if you buy a power bank. But bike shops, you're in control and you can deliver something that other retailers don't.
Yeah. And if it comes down to lawyers, that kind of intent and being purposeful about trying to be proactive with that stuff always helps somebody in those situations.
Yeah, agreed. And obviously get the content, get some safety content on your website. We have, I believe we've got some content in the library, don't we?
I think we got a library. I know we have a premium content package about e-bike information that's got a safety section too. So, if you need help with that, reach out. We'll certainly help get that stuff on your site for you.
Absolutely. I'm going to add one more plug. I'm a big fan of the trade organizations that we have in the bike industry. Mm-hmm. People for Bikes has a very active legislative arm. It's one of their 3 key pillars. So, gosh darn it, every shop should join People for Bikes. I've said it over and over again, but the monthly data that they provide in terms of industry reporting, they do consumer surveys, they track ridership, all of these things that a bike shop will want to know as they're trying to forecast, what their sales are or benchmark themselves against the industry, down to the category level. I mean, it's really powerful stuff. But again, they're the ones that are in Washington. They're the ones that are operating at the state level. So, when a small business feels like they can't have an impact, that's not all the way true. Your voice matters, your money matters. So join People for Bikes.
Yeah, quiet doesn't help.
No, probably no, not when regulation comes in.
Well, speaking of organizations, there's an NBDA retailer and supplier best practices panel that is there. What's going on with that?
Yeah, Heather, and her whole team, which I think is growing, they put together these panel discussions that happen regularly, I think quarterly, and they're great. I mean, it's suppliers and retailers. They'll pick a topic or two, and somebody will present as basically a conversation starter, just 3 to 5 minutes. And then the group on the panel just picks it up and offers a point of view. And sometimes it's validating or adding information. Sometimes it's agreeing or disagreeing. There's space for retailer attendants to post questions and get answers from specific people. But they're just, Heather's so in tune with what dealer, focus areas should be or concerns should be. And she's made the effort to bring, a diverse group of people together to talk about it. And I think it's really compelling content. I hope, listeners, will give will attend an upcoming session and see what they think.
Yeah. We'll make sure there's notes in the description here just to remind you of that. So if you have questions about that, if we can help point you in the right direction, let us know.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Data-wise, what are we seeing most recently? I mean, we're in the heat of the season in more ways than one across the country. What are we seeing in the data this month?
Well, from a system performance standpoint and an overall retail performance, July was a great month online. Relative to last year, it was strong. Relative to previous months, especially May. Boy, May was not a great month for the bike industry. Our clients did relatively well online relative to the overall. So I'm pleased with how the summer has gone. In the last month, I've talked to more suppliers than retailers, but suppliers are really grateful to see an uptick in wholesale orders. I mean, we all know this. There's still, just problems, on the supply side with, it's over inventory, but it's not the same as it was a couple of years ago. But instead, it's really trying to flush through the product that's not moving, so that they can get margins back up. And when May and June were so slow, I think there were a lot of alarm bells going off at suppliers, but it's been healthy to see a good July. So that's just going to be one step towards kind of getting towards industry health. And you see it in some of the headlines that pop up on Brain as well, that, sales might be down, but margins are starting to recover. And that for suppliers is just absolutely huge. And I mean, have you talked to more retailers? What do you kind of hearing about market conditions in July, August?
Well, as usual, we hear a variety, but I don't know. The trend seems to be it's not gloom and doom. There seems to be traffic in the stores, sales in different areas. Maybe stores are having to reach out for different things. Maybe repairs are being a bigger catalyst for upsells and that kind of thing. But bikes are selling, and there is a difference. Often we see a difference between those retailers that are proactively and aggressively marketing. I mean, you expect that to have an effect. Sometimes it has more of an effect than others, and now is one of those times. The merchants that have continued with the Google ad programs, their emails have continued. They're still seeing the store traffic, and a trend of late is that the Google ads are driving more store traffic. Product related Google ads are driving awareness and store traffic more than they ever have. And I think that's reflective of, we talked about search data a while back, that the bike shop near me search is not the predominant search anymore. So I think that makes sense. The placement of those ads at the very top of a page is just too in your face to miss. So that's there. But even the smaller stores, I think it seems like they're seeing traffic that they haven't seen the last month or two. So I think overall it feels good. There's certainly some of those spots where, whether it's geography or demographics, that it's just tough right now. But I think I hear less of that than I was a month or two ago.
Good. You know, and I'm thrilled to hear that store traffic is being impacted by the website and Google ads. You know, you and I talk so much about, our clients diversifying their revenue and future-proofing their business by getting online sales in place. But the vast majority of our clients, what they want is foot traffic.
Yeah.
And if the website if you're positioned on Google to get engagement from customers, you get the links to the website, you get the store traffic. I mean, that's delivering results as far as I'm concerned.
And it's not separate anymore. I think what's good for, we used to talk about what's good for the customer on your website as far as providing good information is good for SEO. There's a similar thing that what's good to generate online awareness and online sales turns out to be even more so now than ever good for in-store sales. So you're not making a choice so much as you're just making sure your name's in the right place to be seen at that part of the shopping funnel. I'm ready to buy something, and that's where these ads have been important. That's where good website management and maintenance practices are more important than ever.
Yeah. I had another, just the number of times that little, blue icon on shopping ads that says, nearby or in store impacts my life. I had another one yesterday because I went camping over the weekend, and, I got that Jeep, and what's a Jeep guy? You're not really a Jeep guy if what's that?
You have a Jeep? I didn't.
Oh,
I haven't heard you talk about that at all.
That hurts. I know what you're doing there. But in the summer, you gotta have the doors off. You can't have windows. Not a great idea if you're going to go to the high country in monsoon season. So wet, rained the whole time, just drenched. So I got home, and my axe, which you carry with you in case the tree's down in a storm, was all rusty. And I'm such a WD-40 guy. I think they make a cologne. I should probably get some. I love the stuff. But it failed me. It got rusty. And so there's kind of a more old-timey rust preventer called Barasol. So I needed some of that. And boy, it was sure convenient to have that pop up and know that the farm store around the corner has it. So boring Jeep guy story, but it made a difference. I could have gotten it on Amazon, but instead I went to the farm store and got another tarp.
Well, I like the act of shopping. So that, Matt, for instance, I like going to the grocery store rather than online pickup and that kind of stuff. I want what I want, but I also want to go look at a few things, and I like the process. So I appreciate those little in-store things. My rust prevention story goes back years ago. My father-in-law worked at a bakery. He kept the machinery moving, and he gave me a can of this commercial stuff. It was amazing. I mean, it would loosen any bolt. Nothing rusted if it touched it. And I left it in my storage room in the summer, again, back to the weather. And a few weeks later, I went in the storage room and I went, it smells funny. And what's that brown stuff all over the place? That can had heated up and it exploded in the storage room and there was
Oh
little
no.
shrapnel in the wall from the can and the accelerant type
Wow.
stuff. So I'm glad I wasn't standing
Wow.
there when that happened. But
No kidding. Although that would be a good story if you had facial scars
yes, and
from it. You could bond
that's where I
villain.
got this.
Yeah, yeah. The other data thing is, there's been this like ongoing discussion about how many bike shops are there in the country, and that should be knowable. But there's been these wide swings from 5,000 to 12,000. We decided we finally want to answer the conversation or that question definitively.
Mhm.
We didn't want to go to the kind of long time data, providers of that information. I think there's a lot of kind of uncertainty about whether or not, the information is all that accurate. So we went out and we found two separate vendors. One that kind of, automated searching the web and gathering information about, the shops, what do they specialize in, what brands do they carry, built that up. And then now we're working with a secondary, kind of general market vendor that is validating all of that information and helping us kind of better understand the square footage of the store and the sales volume of the store. So I'm excited about that because when that second vendor is done, we're going to have the best list of bike shops of any company in the industry. But also like we'll understand. We'll know whether or not we work with 20% of bike shops, 20% of bike shops that aren't service focused, or if it's 10%. But we really want to be the ones that are activating the entire IBD channel, and we can't do that if we don't know exactly how many IBDs are out there. So
It's exciting.
I'm stoked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will tell you, early results show there's a lot of freaking bike shops. Like we're nudging up to about twice as many as what I thought there were.
Wow. Yeah, I've never known. I've
Yeah.
been here since 2011, and I've heard everything from 2,500 to 15,000, and it's hard to know what's right.
It's always baffled me. And like big suppliers will ask me, how many bike shops do you think there are? Like, how do you not
Yeah,
know
don't you
that?
know?
Uh,
Yeah,
so we'll get to the bottom of it and, yeah, let everybody
that'll be
know.
fun to talk about. What else? Any
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
exciting things to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't know if it's exciting, but there's been something that's been on my mind lately. And it's the word greed. So like it came up first at the NBDA summit in May, and a supplier was on stage talking about what unfolded over a couple of years. And the supplier said, you know what, we were greedy as a way to describe the kind of volume of inventory that came in as people were trying to, kind of navigate the surge. And at the time I thought, well, that just doesn't, I mean, I guess you're from the company and so you can say that, but I was so close to observing the data and the challenges with forecasting. Was it greed or just pursuing market opportunities? I just have a hard time characterizing it that way. But then I was talking to a dealer a couple of days who insisted that he was greedy as he was describing how his business unfolded. And who am I to question what his motivations were? But I know there was a narrative like that, early on as maybe retailers were talking about kind of price
Mhm.
inflation or, suppliers taking advantage of them. I just thought that was a point of view, but I don't know. Hearing more people characterize it,
Especially people
I don't know. I
characterizing
still find it
themselves that
confusing.
way.
I know. I mean, what is that? I mean, because as a business person, pursuing opportunities and taking risks isn't greed. I mean, our obligation is to try and make money and build sustainable
No,
businesses.
I,
I don't
I don't know
understand.
that I ever would have recognized greed. I think I recognized unprepared. I think in a lot of
Oh,
instances, caught unaware. Where's the historical reference to have had anything to put in the bank? And I think from a supplier standpoint, I was disappointed that it seemed like there was just this snap to, let's just do whatever we can to blow inventory up. What about the fact that we've had a lot of inventory for a lot of years? It seemed like a lack of thoughtfulness, but mostly it just felt unprepared to me, which I didn't know how to feel about that. Should I feel like somebody should have been prepared? I don't know. But greed, I never thought
I
about
tell
that.
you what, again, same. I just thought that that was very cynical thinking. When the early problems started to emerge. But I'm with you. I think it exposed all the weaknesses in a supplier's data for sure. Like that's a
Mhm.
huge. They didn't have any information. They couldn't see what was happening in the market. But then also maybe buyers and maybe they got complacent. Maybe there wasn't a good enough kind of governance at the companies in order to ensure that buyers were all in line with what senior leadership saw as the right
Mhm.
strategy. So I think a lot of organizations got better out of it. But yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was just a series of mistakes from kind of misreading and not having the right
What do you
processes
think? I
or being
mean,
prepared.
personally, because we didn't know what to think at the beginning of that pandemic. You as a leader were, I mean, we walked in on March 9th to the office and you said, we don't know what this is, but let's not do it here. We can
Mm-hmm.
be
Yeah,
remote.
yeah,
Let's be remote and see
yeah.
what's happening. Let's take a safety approach to it. But I certainly don't think we were greedy as a company, but what do you think? Because we were shocked at the increase in our business at that point. It could have gone either way in our mind. What, you don't feel that way, do you? I don't feel we were.
Boy, looking back, things were moving so fast at that time. But in those early days when all retail shut down, like we had to go into crisis mode. We immediately revised our forecasts, assuming a 20% drop in sales. We don't have the kind of business that we can necessarily react on the expense side in order to account for that in a way that we think is healthy for our business or our culture. So we had to just kind of plan, how can we ride this out? Do we have enough cash in the bank to ride it out? But boy, when Northern California, when those I think 7 counties named bike shops as essential
Mm-hmm.
businesses, and then that propagated across the country, we were the first probably non-retailer to see that surge. Because we do have that daily data, and we just watched e-com sales
Yeah.
skyrocket. Suppliers didn't have that. They when they had that, oh my gosh, business is going to drop by 20% because all of our customers are closed. They had no choice. They did have inventory that they could forecast. They had inventory coming in, 90 days, 6 months. They could make a decision today to protect their business in that future. So they made that first initial reaction to what we did, but then they didn't have good data for when it turned around. So it was just a very confusing time. I guess for us, I don't know. What was the question?
Well,
Were
just
you
what you
greedy?
felt. I mean,
No, I
if
think,
some of these suppliers are
yeah,
describing themselves as greedy and a merchant or two has,
yeah.
I certainly don't. I don't feel we were. But then again, our business is very
I don't,
different. Our inventory, we can turn our inventory off and on because it's digital.
yeah,
We may not be able
yeah,
to change our expense structure like some of those can, but we can certainly, our
yeah,
inventory, we just make it so it's easy.
yeah. Obviously, I don't think we're greedy. And I think if anybody listening to this sees signals that we are, I'd love to hear about it because I want to be really sensitive to how we're perceived as well. But like I think to maybe just pull back the curtain a little bit, you, you know, this business isn't designed to generate a lot of net income. This business is not designed around sustainability. We've been here for 25 years. We want to be here another 25 years. And so we're focused on any money we make rolls right back into the software. So when we do like a price increase, it may not feel great to our customers. But my commitment to you is that's because I'm investing in software development. That's because developers are costing more now, especially in the AI boom is driving up developer wages so quickly. So I need to run a sustainable business. It's not that I'm yes, I've got a Jeep and I break a lot of things, but I'm not running the business in such a way to support my habit. That's careful budgeting at the
Yeah,
household level.
yeah. That's
But again, perception matters. Like the relationship we have with our clients. If they don't see it the same way, I'd love to talk to them. But you're in our culture. We're here to serve. Back to that like early days when the boom
mhm.
happened. The way this company rallied around this, you know, scores of retailers who called in and said, "I desperately need a website today." Uh, do you remember how long did it take us to get University Bikes in Boulder from no website to e-commerce enabled? Was it like
I think it
five
was six
days or
days.
7 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
So
only
like
one weekend involved.
this team, Yeah, yeah. We freaking rallied. Like that was such a thrilling time, if we can say it. Because it's it transformed the way shops viewed
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce. I mean, the we were all of a sudden the most important partner to these clients, and that was validating. And yes, some of that perception has retreated to in years past, but the the impact we have is completely different today than it was January of
Well, I think we all
2019.
thought one day e-commerce and its effect on local business will be felt in the way we know it will. It just that event accelerated that. Instead of being
Mm-hmm.
6 or 8 or 10 years away, it turned out to be a month and a half away from when we thought it would be. Anyway,
Yeah. So as a final note, anybody who's listening, if you go to my LinkedIn, and I posted yesterday a video from 1997, a BBC report on how e-commerce will impact, or the internets will impact retail. Priceless. Like it's the most 1997 thing I've ever seen. But there's a Bezos clip in there. I think what was that 3 to 5 years after startup, and it's just really interesting to see what an Amazon, or what the Amazon warehouse looked like in 1997. There's some B-roll footage.
it's
Definitely
the
worth
most
watching.
90s thing you've seen, except our original logo.
I know, I know. Someone asked me yesterday, somebody I know and trust asked me, why did you change your name? That seems so risky. Everybody knew Smart Detailing. Yeah, but it was a bad name. It was so
It's
antiquated.
Workstand is much more. Although people still call it Smarty Town. I don't correct them because I still make the mistake sometimes. I lived a long time in that ecosystem, and it means a lot. I have a lot of memories and career growth and everything.
Totally. It can be both, a,
Yes,
a dated and kind of bad name, and there could be a sentimental attachment. I mean, it was 25 years. Like we built, another episode. Let's reminisce about the great story
no,
of this
you
company.
should. Yeah, cool.
So,
All right, this has been fun.
yeah,
I hope Susie feels better soon, and we'll get this
same.
together, and we'll see you around the workstand soon.